It's about being a person who engages because they choose to, not because they need to. Does this concept of predictability versus engagement strike a chord? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And while you're there, give this video a like if you're finding value. It truly helps spread these ideas. The strength of non-reactive presence. Here is a dynamic that plays out in countless interactions, often beneath the surface of conscious thought. Testing. This isn't a malicious or planned strategy. It's an instinctual probe, a way to gauge stability, resilience, and emotional fortitude. It might be a delayed reply to observe your reaction. It could be a minor, provocative comment to assess your equilibrium. It might be mentioning another person to see if you crumble into insecurity. How you respond in these micro moments writes a narrative about your character. Evolutionary psychology suggests that these filters developed as mechanisms to assess a potential partner's capacity to handle stress, provide stability, and lead under pressure. A person who reacts with visible anxiety, jealous interrogation, or pleading neediness communicates fragility. The unspoken question becomes, if this small pressure causes a crack, what would a real storm do? The individual who remains centered under these subtle pressures creates a different narrative entirely. He becomes an enigma, breaking the expected pattern. When she creates distance and he doesn't frantically chase, her mental script requires revision. When she tests and he remains unshakably calm, he transforms from a known quantity into uncharted territory. And the human mind is irresistibly drawn to map what it does not yet understand. This curiosity is the seed of deeper attraction. The critical error many make is conflating persistent interest with desperate need. They believe that fighting for her means accepting all conditions, that constant availability proves devotion, that yielding in every disagreement shows maturity. Unfortunately, these actions often broadcast a unified, subconscious message. My stability depends on your presence. I fear your absence more than I respect my own peace. This message rarely inspires respect or desire. More often, it triggers a slow, instinctual retreat. The warmth cools not out of malice, but out of a deep-seated recognition of instability. Strategic detachment, then, is the antidote. This does not mean cold indifference. It means cultivating an internal state of choice rather than need. It is the difference between I want you in my life and I need you to validate my life. It's a presence that communicates calmly and clearly. I am here because I choose to be. My worth and my peace are not yours to give or take away. This is the energy of a complete person. It is inherently attractive because it promises strength, not drama, partnership, not dependency. We're halfway through, and this is where most people just consume information. Don't be most people. Internalize this. Put the phone down for a second and think about one area where you can practice more non-reactive presence this week. Then, come back and keep going. The power of polarized interaction. Consider the atmosphere in a room when certain people converse. It's not merely the words, it's the charge in the air. There are pauses that feel significant. There is eye contact that holds just beyond the ordinary. There's a playful tension, a dance of differing energies. This dynamic is polarization, the conscious or unconscious creation of a charge between complementary, not identical, forces. The absence of this polarity is why you can have a perfectly pleasant, lengthy conversation that ultimately leads to a feeling of friendship, not magnetic connection. When we neutralize our natural energy to become overly agreeable, inoffensive, and safe, we erase the very contrast that generates spark. We become a comfortable echo, not a compelling voice. Polarization operates through microtensions. These are subtle, respectful deviations from a script of total agreement. It's expressing a contrary opinion with a smile. It's holding a glance for a half-second longer. It's playful challenge. It's introducing a slight element of unpredictability in a controlled, confident way. These actions communicate presence and self-assurance. They signal that you are an active participant creating an experience, not a passive audience member seeking approval. Research in social psychology supports this. Studies have indicated that ambiguous interest can sometimes generate more obsessive thought and attraction than clear, unwavering admiration. The uncertainty forces the other person to actively think about you, to puzzle you out. And that cognitive engagement is frequently misattributed by the brain as emotional interest. She isn't thinking about you because she's attracted. She becomes attracted because she's constantly thinking about you. Let's talk about a familiar scene. You've seen this guy before, maybe at work, maybe in your social circle. He's not the most striking in appearance. His bank account isn't the deepest. He isn't reciting poetry or solving complex equations. Yet, there's a magnetic pull. People, especially women, seem to orbit him. It's confusing. You watch, you analyze, and you wonder, what is the invisible quality he possesses that you don't? The answer isn't found in the usual places. It's not a secret handshake, a hidden bank vault, or a miraculous genetic gift. It's something far more fundamental, rooted in behavior, presence, and a psychological undercurrent that governs human connection. It's in the unspoken confidence of his movement through a room. It's in the space he occupies without apology. It's in a gaze that engages without pleading. You might have found yourself in the opposite position, ever present, consistently reliable, meticulously thoughtful. You're the one who remembers details, who is always responsive, who prioritizes her comfort. And yet, you watch from the sidelines as attention flows towards someone who appears, on the surface, to offer less. This isn't about fairness. It's about understanding a deep-seated, often unconscious system of evaluation. The core of the matter isn't about being unkind or manipulative. It's about a fundamental mismatch between intention and perception. Behaviors meant to demonstrate care can inadvertently signal something entirely different: a lack of alternative options, an emptiness waiting to be filled. The human psyche, particularly in the realm of attraction, responds less to overt effort and more to subtle signals of value and independence. Think about it for a moment. What captivates attention in a story? The predictable, safe outcome, or the uncertain twist? What creates excitement in a game? The guaranteed win, or the chance to win? This principle scales down to our most basic social interactions. Certainty is comfortable, but it is often the cousin of monotony. Uncertainty, when framed correctly, is the engine of engagement. Before we dive deeper, if this perspective is resonating with you, hit that subscribe button. We dismantle these complex topics regularly, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Now let's get back to it. The pitfall of constant availability. Let's address an uncomfortable truth head-on. Often, the issue isn't a deficiency in character or effort. The issue can be an excess of transparency, a total lack of suspense, the immediate reply to every message, the instant acceptance of every plan, regardless of your own schedule, the subtle shaping of your opinions to align with hers. These actions, intended as kindness, can be interpreted as a silent manifesto of need. This doesn't lead to dramatic rejection. It leads to something more insidious: quiet indifference. You become categorized as pleasant, but not compelling. You are the reliable harbor, not the intriguing voyage. She may value your conversation, but she doesn't anticipate your presence. Neuroscience offers a clear window into why this happens. Our brain's reward system, powered by chemicals like dopamine, isn't most stimulated by the guaranteed prize. It fires most intensely in the anticipation of a reward, in the gap between desire and fulfillment. The maybe is more potent than the yes. The predictable person removes the maybe. They become a closed book, leaving no room for the imagination to wander, for curiosity to build. You believe you are demonstrating commitment and interest. The unconscious mind of the observer may be processing a different signal: a life without competing priorities. A rapid response can whisper, "I was waiting for this." Always being free can imply, "Nothing in my world is more important than your invitation." Now, contrast this with the individual who seems to occupy her thoughts. He responds, but not always instantly, not as a calculated tactic, but as a natural consequence of an engaged life. He might reschedule, not out of disrespect, but because his own projects hold weight. He can disagree, calmly and confidently, without fear of the interaction ending. This isn't manipulation. It's the behavioral output of a full life. And that fullness creates necessary space, the very space where wonder and attraction can grow. This space is the oxygen for any spark. Without it, the ember dies. Psychologists term this intermittent reinforcement. A reward that is consistent becomes expected and loses its luster. A reward that is unpredictable creates fixation. It's a powerful, albeit sometimes frustrating, aspect of behavioral conditioning. To ignore it is to ignore a fundamental driver of human motivation. Applying this insight isn't about playing games. It's about building substance. It means cultivating a life that doesn't pivot on a single axis of external validation. It means maintaining your projects, your passions, and your boundaries. Mastering this art requires calibration. It is not about being disagreeable or arrogant. It is about having the confidence to occupy your own emotional and intellectual space fully. It's about being willing to create a slight friction that generates heat without sparking a fire that burns the bridge. It transforms forgettable chats into memorable interactions. People remember how you made them feel, and feeling a genuine, respectful tension is far more memorable than feeling placated. The foundation, becoming the protagonist. We have now dissected several behavioral layers. But all of this rests upon a foundational core, your sense of self. The so-called tricks or games are often merely the observable symptoms of a man who has built a life of intrinsic meaning. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche famously wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." This is the ultimate principle of attraction. A person who possesses a clear purpose, a direction, a passion that ignites them independently of any romantic interest carries a natural magnetism. They do not chase. They attract as a byproduct of their own forward motion. Their energy is focused on building, creating, and exploring. This focus is compelling. The transformation required is not primarily about learning lines or techniques. It is an identity shift. As long as you see yourself as someone who requires another's validation to feel complete, you will leak that need in every interaction, in your posture, your tone, your silences. The turning point comes when you internalize a liberating truth. You do not need any specific person to live a valuable, exciting, and meaningful life. Paradoxically, it is this very emotional and existential independence that creates the healthiest foundation for someone to want to join your journey. It makes you a choice, not a rescue mission. Eliminate the addiction to external validation. Build your sources of pride and joy from within, from skills mastered, challenges overcome, contributions made, and a character forged. Develop the emotional stability of someone who has faced themselves and doesn't require constant applause from an audience of one. This is the real work. There is no secret bypass. It demands decision, daily consistency, and the courage to become the author of your own life story. This is the moment of application. Knowledge is powerless without action. What is one small step you can take today to build more independent meaning into your life? Share it in the comments. Let's create a wave of accountability. And if this video shifted your perspective, smash that like button and share it with one friend who needs to hear this message. The invitation to build. Let's end with a final, powerful reframe. As long as you place another person at the absolute center of your emotional universe, you will likely remain a peripheral character in theirs. Lasting attraction begins to flourish the moment you decisively become the protagonist of your own narrative. When this shift occurs, when you stop orbiting and start generating your own gravitational pull, everything changes. Your communication carries new weight. Your posture conveys assurance. Your choices reflect self-respect. And this change is perceived before you utter a single word. The path is one of continuous growth. It's about showing up as a person of depth, resilience, and authentic engagement. It's about replacing the question, "Does she like me?" with, "Am I living a life that I am proud of?" The answer to the latter makes the former increasingly irrelevant, and, ironically, much more likely to be a resounding yes. If you're ready to move beyond theory and into structured, principled action, I've created a comprehensive system that delves much deeper. We break down the psychology, the practical frameworks, and the actionable steps to build this unshakable foundation and master authentic social dynamics. The link to learn more is in the description below. Your journey starts with a single, deliberate step. Take it. Subscribe for more deep dives into psychology and performance. Like this video if it helped you. Comment with your biggest takeaway. And most importantly, go out and apply this. Build your life. Become the protagonist. The rest